Hello, this is cjhoyle, and welcome to day 6 of my solo canoeing adventure in the Trent-Severn Waterway. The time is currently just after 6 a.m., and it's a nice misty morning out on the lake. It got quite chilly last night, but it's already warmed up to the point where I'm able to wear my regular t-shirt. Alright, so I've got my tent taken down and all my stuff packed up, and it's all been loaded up into the canoe, and that means that I'm ready to get on the water and start exploring into that misty wonderland. So after my long journey yesterday from Bobcaygeon to Buckhorn, today I'll be paddling to the Burleigh Falls Lock Station, which will be a much shorter distance. My route will begin through Lower Buckhorn Lake, and I'll paddle to the Lovesick Lock Station. After taking the canoe in the lock, I'll continue through Lovesick Lake until I reach the Burly Falls Lock Station, where I'm planning on camping tonight. There are lots of boats out on the water fishing this morning. Well, I'm certainly relying on my GPS this morning to know which direction to point the canoe. With all this fog, it's really hard to see the peninsulas that I need to navigate around. It truly is a really beautiful morning today. There's some noisy Canada geese, and it's still very foggy even at 8:15. So it's now about 8:45 and the fog shows no signs of lifting quite yet, and I've reached the point in Lower Buckhorn where there's a big bay over there called Deer Bay, and I've been following this southern shoreline, and of course I don't want to follow it all the way down to the bottom of that bay, so I have to cut across, but there's some islands over on the other side. I'm realizing I'm pointing the camera into a sea of white, but basically somewhere over there are some islands that I'll be able to, sort of weave my way through to be able to sort of follow and continue in that direction. The idea being that there's supposed to be more wind coming today. Right now there's like virtually none, but there's supposed to be a wind from the south. So following the south shoreline and getting shelter from those islands will be helpful if that wind does come. So I've found some of those islands and the fog is starting to lift, and the wind is also starting to pick up from the south, so I'm glad I have my plan in place. So the time is now 9 o'clock, and I pulled the canoe up onto the shore here, and I'm going to stop and have my usual overnight oats breakfast. Coincidentally, this island that I decided to stop on is called Dinnertime Island. I've been noticing this morning that the mist has been highlighting all of the different spider webs. Now that the fog is lifted, I can see that it's a really beautiful day, and Lower Buckhorn looks really nice. There are certainly lots of these weeds in this part of the lake. This big island over here on my left is called Wolf Island, and it's a non-operating provincial park. I can see some houseboats which are parked over by Wolf Island, and I can even see one of the dams for the next lake that I'm going into, which is called Lovesick Lake. So up ahead there is the lock to Lovesick Lake, and once I get across that lock, I'll just have, a short paddle across Lovesick Lake until I get to my ultimate destination for today, which is Burly Falls. The distance that I need to paddle today is significantly less than any of the other days, so in a way, today is kind of like my rest day. So if I were to go through the lock right now, then I'd be arriving at my final destination before noon, which seems kind of early. So instead, I think I'll go and take a break over there on Wolf Island and maybe explore around a little bit. So I've got the canoe tied up here nice and securely here in this very calm, quiet bay. And now I'm going to walk around and explore a bit around Wolf Island. So I'm standing here on top of one of the dams between Lower Buckhorn Lake and Lovesick Lake. And there's the bigger dam there. And I've also noticed that they have this ramp system here for pushing canoes and kayaks over to the other lake. It's kind of like a ladder, but it has the round logs in such a way that they can rotate. So I was reading on an information plaque that this canoe slide dates back to the 1930s, or at least the original one did, although it's been rebuilt a number of times, and the current one was rebuilt by the residents of the two lakes that it joins together, and they have a donation box here if you want to donate to help them with their maintenance. Because I have a lock pass which enables me unlimited trips to the locks, I of course will not be taking advantage of this canoe slide, but it also says on the plaque here that it was mostly intended for the off season when the locks weren't running. When I'm canoeing across this channel here, I need to be very careful that I don't get too close to this buoy line here because the current coming into that dam looks quite strong. You can see there's a lot of water moving through it. It seems like lots of other people have visited this island, and there are some pretty well-established trails. There's even somebody camping here. So those trails I was seeing earlier really were just leading to that campsite and to the dam. The rest of the island doesn't really seem to have any trails, or at least of what I've seen of it so far, but it's relatively easy to walk through. You know, it's not really that thick of tree coverage, so you can kind of make your way through. And in this direction, though, there seems to be a swamp, so I've been kind of following the line of this swamp and just sort of making my way around the island. Look at this really interesting plant. It's some kind of moss or fungus, but it looks like the things that the military uses to try and camouflage things. There's a better look at that marsh that I've been working my way around, and here's some more of that interesting looking plant. So I didn't exactly take the most direct route to get here, but I managed to make it all the way across the island to the dam, which is between this island, Wolf Island, and another island over here, which is called Grey Duck Island. If I wanted to, I'd be able to cross this dam over to that island and cross that island, and there'd be another dam which would take me over to the mainland. But instead I'm going to work my way back through this forest to where I parked my canoe on the other side. So I've made it back across the island, and thankfully the canoe is still waiting patiently for me over there. So the time is now noon, and before I get back in the canoe and continue paddling, I'm going to stop here for lunch. The first thing on the menu is some corn on the cob. So I don't have any type of heating source for cooking my corn, but believe it or not, corn on the cob is actually really delicious, even when it's raw. It's very juicy. And now some peanut butter sandwiches as well. Alright, so I finished my lunch and I'm ready to continue. And as you can hear, the wind has picked up again, but it seems like it's going to be pushing me. Not that I really have that much further to go anyway. Alright, so there's the lock, and I can see a houseboat that's coming off and some sea-doos and another boat going on. Hopefully I can get on the same lock as them. So I managed to make it on the lock, and it's a very full lock. There's that big houseboat there, and there's two boats, including the one in front of me, which are from Hydro One. Looks like they got a big coil of cable and probably are running some underwater electrical cables to cottages. Alright, so we're now all the way down at the bottom, and I'm going to let all these other boats get out of the lock before I do. Alright, so here I am now in Lovesick Lake. That's an interesting houseboat setup. They've got some tents set up on their roof. I guess they want to sleep more people than the boat can accommodate. The island over to my left is called Ruba Island, and I decided to paddle over on the south side of it instead of the north side. It's this long, narrow, skinny island, and the canal is actually signed for the other side, but I decided to go on this side, which is quieter. So up ahead I can see the dam there, and there's certainly lots of small little rocky islands here on this lake. So there's the Burly Falls Lock Station, and it's also the point where Highway 28 crosses over the canal system. And just beyond the lock is the big dam that you definitely don't want to get sucked into. So I've just walked down to the bottom of the lock to scope out some camping areas, and I can see that it's quite a big lock. And the lake down here is Stony Lake. So the wind seems to be picking up, but it doesn't really matter because all I have to do is get back in the canoe, paddle it over that way, and get in the lock and head down. I've already purchased my camping permit. Alright, and there the gates open so I can proceed inside. Well, it looks like I'll have company with me in the lock again this time. Alright, we're starting to go down now. Now we're really moving. And there they open. And I get this nice secluded camping spot down here on the right side. Alright, so the canoe is out of the water, and all my stuff is out of it and placed over there. Now I can get to work pitching my tent. Alright, so I've got my campsite all set up now, and I think I'm just going to lie down and rest for a little bit, because after all, today is supposed to be my rest day, because tomorrow is going to be another 20+ kilometer day. Alright, so after relaxing for an hour or so, I'm now going to go and explore around Burly Falls. So between the exit to Stony Lake and the place where the actual gates of the lock are, there's this really long channel with really high sidewalls. And the reason it looks like this is because this actually used to be two locks. You can see that there's, these indentations in the walls. That's where the old gates used to be. And in fact, you can see there's some kind of a foundation here in the ground, which I'm sure is related to one of the gates as well. So originally there was 2 locks here that lowered boats by a height of about 4 meters each, but when they modernized it, they just converted it to 1 lock, which has a lift of apparently about 7.3 meters. Those big gates certainly are impressive. Crossing over the locks is this bridge here, which is Highway 28, which is a major highway for people getting up to their cottages. All the places that I've been so far on this trip are places that I've never visited before, and that includes today. I've never actually stopped in Burleigh Falls and walked around it all, but I have ridden up Highway 28 in a car many times. In fact, most of the canoeing I've done prior to this trip had been on family canoe trips further up Highway 28 at Kawartha Highlands Provincial Park. So in terms of dinner choices, there are a few roadside stops along here that I should be able to find something from. So there's the big Burly Falls Dam that I was careful not to get my canoe sucked into earlier today. There's certainly lots of water that flows through it. And then further down there's lots more rapids too. So before the dam was put in, I imagine the rapids further upstream look pretty similar to this. And you can see it just eventually flows into the flat water of Stony Lake over there. This place here used to be a restaurant, but I believe it's now an RV sales center. You can see the doors and windows are all boarded up, but they haven't bothered to change their sign. It still says restaurant. So I'd been planning on stopping here at the Burly Falls Inn because they have a grill which offers takeout from Wednesdays to Sundays. But unfortunately I just discovered that they close at 6 and the time is now 6:20. I wish I had known that ahead of time. I'm gonna check and see if I can find something here instead at the Kawartha Adventure Store. So the dinner that I was able to find from the store was a can of fruit punch, some rotini Greek pasta salad made right from the grill that I was hoping to order from, and some ice cream for dessert. The choices at the store were quite limited, but live and learn. But anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for day 6, my rest day. All in all, it was a not too bad day. I have to say that I don't know if I really liked having a rest day. I kind of felt like, you know, I was like had to sort of kill time so I wouldn't arrive here too early. And then I got here and it was just sort of like, okay, now what? Like I didn't have the same sense of accomplishment that I had in the previous days where I'd, you know, paddled across a big lake or paddled a long distance or anything like that. But I guess it's good to sort of, you know, let my body recharge a little bit before I continue, because tomorrow will be another nice long day with more than 20 kilometers. So if for tonight, apparently I just got an alert on my phone saying that there's a thunderstorm watch in effect, so there's a possibility that there might be some rain and some thunder and lightning here. Anyways, we'll see what happens. And until I sign on for tomorrow, I hope you enjoyed joining me for day number 6. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And thanks for watching. Well, that storm definitely did come.